Hello there everybody and welcome back to another music video Makeup Monday. I am here, your host today, Miss Nikki. Today we are going to be doing a song that I have literally been obsessed for such a long time, and an artist that I have been obsessed with for such a long time. Today we're going to be doing Billy Joel's Piano Man. He has so many hits that we could go over. He has so many songs that I would like to talk about, but for me personally, this was the first song that I ever heard of his while I worked at a Mexican restaurant. I heard the song and I was like, damn, that writing is pretty fucking good. Let me look into him. And then I looked into him and it's been like uphill ever since. Like, I'm excited. Now I know usually we do women on this channel or artists who are all about face paint and colors and all that sort of stuff, but there's so many artists who aren't all of that, and so today we're going to create just like a mixed look. I rewatched the music video today and there's a little bit of hints of blue, a little bit of hints of purple, some pinks in there. So we're just gonna create a look with the vibe and see how it goes. So let's go ahead and get started. I am super excited about this one, and let's jump right into it, shall we? So Billy Joel. His real name is William Martin Joel. He was born May 9th, 1949 in the Bronx. His family later moved to, I think it was called Hicksville, and just kind of stayed in that area for a bit. But Bronx is where he was born. This was already off the jump of me doing my research on him, but his father was something else. His father and his grandpa were something else. So his dad was born in Germany to Jewish parents. This was back then too, so I think off the rip you're like, okay, where does this go? And his grandpa was quite the businessman and obviously saw everything that was kind of going on over there, so they all escaped and went to Switzerland to basically escape the regime. This is the grandpa and his father. And then the grandpa went on to create a textile business that was kind of like a mail order textile sort of thing. And then his son, which was Billy Joel's dad, ended up becoming a pianist as well. The father's business was called Joel Macht. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Macht Fabric. And honestly, it's big because there is a whole Wikipedia page on this guy and his fabric business. So I thought that was crazy. Okay, big guy, all right. His mother, her name was Rosalind. So I was like, okay, Rosalind, there's a big song called Rosalinda's Eyes. I need to go back and re-listen to all the lyrics for that song because I'm assuming it's gotta be about his mom. But anyways, his mom's name was Rosalind and she was born to Jewish parents into New York. More on the family dynamic of what it was that I could grasp. Again, this is all the research that I'm able to find. Maybe some of it is wrong, maybe some of it is right. This is what I could find. I'm like, a fancy way of reading a Wikipedia page. Just ask me and I got you the details. But his parents did not get along very well, and they did eventually divorce. And his father ended up moving to Austria, Vienna, Austria, which again, I was like, okay, now I gotta research Vienna. Vienna waits for you. Like, now there's a little bit more context to it. But apparently his dad did not like the US and kind of their stuck-up attitude and acting like, he was like, no, I'm gonna go back to where the real people were. And eventually the dad ended up getting married over there again, and they had another kid, and that kid ended up going on to become a classical conductor and ended up being like the lead conductor for like a really big company. So, the whole family was kind of like on the musical side from a young age. He also had a sister, Judy, but I didn't get much of the details on Miss Judy. And Judy was with both of his parents. At the age of 4, Mr. Joel also decided to pick up the piano. Really, it was because of his mom. His mom kind of pushed, like, kids gotta learn how to do some piano, However, if you would have asked Joel at the time, like, oh, what are you better at? He would have said, clearly the organ. The organ was his thing. I don't think I really hear of anybody playing the organ nowadays. Not a single person. Not even, yeah. I don't hear anyone playing the organ. So anyway, that was his main thing. This is a story that if you follow Billy Joel, you are probably aware of, but he did take up boxing at a young age, and he really wanted it for self-defense. I think I had read somewhere else that, you know, he was kind of a smaller guy, picked on sort of thing, and so for him it was like, I need to learn how to box, you know? But his boxing career ended after he got punched in the face and broke his nose. It is said that he was pretty good at boxing, and he did end up actually winning like 22 rounds and was like pretty good in like the Golden Gloves sort of thing. But again, after having such a major thing happen to him, he was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna chill out on this. Joel attended Hicksville High School, but never did fully graduate. He was too busy playing in a piano bar, working to basically, you know, put food on the table for him, his mom, and his sister. There was some sort of like major English exam supposedly that he had to do as well, and he never did that. So by not doing that, it was like, all right, you ain't graduating, kid. The school basically told him like, hey, like you gotta like, you know, you gotta kind of go to summer school, kid. The school basically told him that like he gotta go to summer school in order to, you know, continue and, you know, graduate, do all of that stuff. And in true kid fashion, he said, to hell with that, I am not going to go to summer school for this nonsense because I'm trying to be signed by Columbia Records. I'm not trying to go to Columbia College. Like, sorry, but not sorry. And so he ended up not graduating from high school. But what I found kind of funny and cool is that in 1992, which he would have been like, I don't know, 40, 50 years old at that point, he ended up submitting a few essays and they approved it and they gave him his diploma. So I'm like, of course, like, come on, it's just a few English essays. Do you hear this guy's writing? Like, freaking make him succeed, call him a day, you know? I thought it was cool. And in true very Billy fashion, going back and just kind of slapping him in the face of like, you don't want me to graduate because I didn't do my English exam? F you. I freaking loved it. So we've gotten this far, right? And all he has done is play the organ, the piano, done a little bit of boxing. Where does the music kind of come into play? Well, where the music comes into play is the Ed Sullivan Show. There was a Ed Sullivan Show I guess, segment where they had the Beatles on. Now, I'm always infatuated by this because I feel as though, like, to have lived in that era, I'm so like, wow. Every artist that we hear about that talks about the musical inspirations, everybody says the Beatles. Now, the Beatles are dope, but it's crazy to see, like, such a variety of different people who are so inspired by them. Ozzy said the same thing. Ozzy was like, yo, I saw the Beatles and I wanted to be the Beatles, you know? I think Elton said the same thing, which, I mean, of course, Billy says the same thing, but it's just, there's such a wide range of people who were just like, yo, I saw them and I thought I could be them. And so he saw this showing on the show of them performing, and for Billy, it was kind of like a light bulb switch. And I quote, he says that the one performance changed his life. Up until that moment, he had never considered playing rock as a career. And when he saw the four guys who didn't look like they had come out of the Hollywood star mill, who played their own songs and instruments, and especially because you could see the look in John Lennon's face, he says, he looked like he was always trying to say, F you. And he said, I know these guys, I can relate to these guys, I am these guys. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play in a rock band. I just like, sorry, I'm hitting my mic. I was just shook. I was literally shook because yeah, I know what he means. I was totally shook reading that and seeing that, you know, because he really was just like, look man, you guys are doing your thing and I can relate to you guys big time. So I thought that was pretty dope of him, and that was really the start musically to him, you know, feeling in a sense that he could do it, and he took it and he ran with it and did his whole rock band thing. At the age of 16, he joined or started one of the two, his first band, and his first band was called the Echoes. The Echoes later changed their name to the Emeralds, and then they also changed their name to the Lost Souls. So they went through a few name changes, pretty regular. David Bowie, I think, was another one who was saying like the Beatles changed his life. Now I can't remember. Over the next year and a half, they dropped a bunch of singles. They dropped a bunch, not a bunch, they dropped a bunch of singles and 2 total albums, but they were considered commercial failures overall. The drummer, his name was John Smalls. Both him and Joel basically left the band and decided to create their own band called Attila. They did their thing with that, but the band disbanded. After Joel had an affair with John's lady and ended up marrying her. So yeah, that was done after that point. So yeah, he was a married man at that point, doing his thing. In the early 70s, he went on to sign a record deal with a company called Family Productions, and they released Cold Spring Harbor. And the way that he described it is it was like a hamlet of Long Island. Cold Spring Harbor has a very like minimal sort of like tone. Like the production value of it isn't too crazy. And it's a very like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not a low vibe, but it's very like a calm vibe. It's not very like theatrical like some of his other albums were. And it ended up kind of being, again, another like commercial failure sort of thing. Maybe not a failure all the way, but at least a disappointment. There were 2 songs that were actually really popular that were on this album. One was She's Got Away. She's got away. Beautiful song. And that one actually went unnoticed on the album, along with Everybody Loves You Now. Both of them were just kind of songs that were really great, but no one really noticed it with this album release until he repackaged it in Songs in the Attic in 1981. And when he re-released them, I think they were like live tapings. Let me see. Yeah, live performances. When he released it as live performances, then everyone kind of went back and they were like, damn, these are pretty good songs. So yeah, did not start off that way. People were not as hype over those songs until later releases. But nonetheless, still left him in the same position where it's like, okay, I got an album out, I'm signed to these people, and guess what? It ain't going nowhere. He was doing his thing, doing performances and stuff, and he was kind of, not lollygagging, but you know, kind of messing with one of his songs that was going to be later released called Captain Jack. And at that point, you know, he was singing it, and someone, I guess, recorded it at one of his shows that he had done. And they were like, Captain Jack is good, because it was. And it started circulating. The recorded version that someone got from one of his performances ended up circulating on the Philadelphia stations, and people were really liking it. So they liked it, and of course, if they like it, someone's bound to notice, you know, him. And sure enough, there was a guy by the name of Herb Gordon who did come across Billy and listening to his music, I'm assuming on a radio, and he was like, hey, I work with Columbia. Isn't that great? I just love that about life, right? He was with Columbia and he told Billy, hey, you know what? I think we want to sign you. Billy was like, fuck yeah. Billy was like, hell yeah, you want to sign me? Of course you do. And so that's what he did. This Herb Gordon ended up signing him, doing all of that, but the problem was he was still signed, remember, to that like family productions company. So, you know, that's a hard time, you know, going back and forth, like, oh no, we want him, no, we want him, no, we want him, all that sort of stuff. And they were duking it out. They were in the courts trying to figure out like, hey, are you gonna get this? Are you gonna get this? What am I gonna get? And in that time frame, Billy was kind of like stuck in the middle, you know? Stuck in the middle. He was literally stuck in the middle, and he had to decide, okay, like, what am I going to be doing in this time frame to make money, you know? I have 2 people who are duking it out. How am I going to make money? So he started doing some thinking, trying to figure that out, and he ended up moving to LA. And after him moving to LA, he got a gig working a piano bar called the Executive Room, right? The Executive Room was located off of Wilshire Boulevard, and he started playing there and doing his thing there and just saying, okay, well, they're doing their thing, I'm gonna do my thing. And it seems as though he would play there for like, let me see how long. He played there for, I don't know how long. I feel like I read a few articles that said 6 months, a few articles that said a few years. So I couldn't tell you the exact amount, but he played there for a minute. And he didn't play under the name Billy Joel because, again, he had an album out. That was kind of what he was working on. He was already a signed guy, so he didn't want to bring any attention, per se, to himself. And so he changed his name. He changed his name to Bill Martin, right? Because his name is William, so Bill makes sense. And then Martin was his middle name. So he was Bill Martin, and he would just perform at the piano bar, making his moolah, doing his thing. And that's where Piano Man comes into play. They're duking it out, and he's getting some life experience playing at this bar on a nightly basis. And it's said that pretty much all the characters that are in this song are people from the bar. He said that John at the bar was really a bartender at the bar. Paul is a real estate novelist, is another guy who would be at the bar, who was a real estate agent sort of guy, who was working on what he believed was the next best, novel sort of thing. And then the waitress is practicing politics was actually a reference to his wife. They both moved over here, and Elizabeth was the waitress. And it's ironic because you're like, the waitress is practicing politics, which is basically her trying to be politically correct, doing what you got to do at the bar to make money, or as a waitress trying to make money while he's playing, doing his thing. I don't know, I just found it like, what the heck? So yeah, everybody was a real character in this song. It did end up working out for Billy for the most part. Columbia did end up winning the deal with the Family Productions Agency group, whatever, however you want to put it, who had the signed Cold Spring Harbor deal. And then apparently there was a little bit of a riffraff going on, and basically Columbia kind of forced the Family Productions people to like, hey, hand over the rights to Cold Spring Harbor, and they did, and Columbia ended up gifting the rights to Billy for that album. So Billy owns the rights to that. Pretty dope. And that's honestly like that's an awesome play. Like, kudos to Columbia and the president for doing that for Billy. The song went on to be released in 1973 after them duking it out and after him playing at the bar for however long he was playing at the bar for. And the song was released, and honestly it did okay. It wasn't like, wow, it was a commercial success, but it was doing okay. The song ended up dropping at around number 30 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts and then went up all the way to 25. So I mean, it did okay, you know? I mean, it's definitely a lot better than any of his other successes, but you know, it just was doing its thing. It was one of those sleeper hits, right? Like, you hear it, you're like, wow, this is great, but you know, people didn't catch on immediately to Piano Man. The original music video dropped in 1973, and then they re-dropped another one in 1985 that had like a little bit more stuff going on. They were saying that apparently, that, again, like I said, it didn't get as much hype off the jump. It wasn't like, oh my God, Billy Joel, oh my God, the song, it's so great. Until The Stranger came out. When The Stranger came out, then everyone went ballistic, and it became one of his like top, well-known, best-selling, amazing hits. He didn't win any awards from this, which was shocking to me, but it is what it is. But on Rolling Stone's top 500 greatest songs of all time, he did end up going to the 421st spot and was placed at number 63 on the top 100 classic rock songs. The Library of Congress National Recording Registry also said that it was culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And that basically sums up this video and this makeup look from today that's inspired by this music video. For me, Billy has been one of those people that I think, you know, we talk about, like we said, the Beatles, right? We talk about how like they were so motivational, so inspirational, kind of gave this fuck it attitude, you know, if you will, and just said, hey, you know, go do this, do what you gotta do sort of thing. And I think for me, listening to him when I worked in the Mexican restaurant was like that pivotal point. I was like, damn, who is this guy? This is some really good songwriting. And then it turned out that my mom had a CD that I had in my CD case that I had never listened to. She'd never played growing up, ever. And I plugged it in and I was like, dude, who is this guy? And then since then, it's just been an ongoing obsession, listening to his music, dissecting the things that he says, and you're just like, this is one of the most influential people. He was in so many different circumstances and is such a well-versed, rounded guy and just perceptive of the things that he sees. For me personally, he's one of the best writers I have ever come across musically. Not only does he write his own stuff, he does his piano work, he does all of that stuff. And so he's just a classic guy, an amazing guy, and one of my favorite musicians to date. So if you guys are interested in going into more of a deeper breakdown on any of his other older albums, I would absolutely love to do that. Let me know in the comments down below. The Stranger, Turnstiles, like Songs in the Attic, like I'm so down to go and talk about any of the other ones as well. So if y'all are interested in that, let me know. And if you guys are interested in any other musicians, let me know in the comments down below. I'm excited to see who you guys want me to do next, and we'll see you guys in another video soon. Thank you guys again for tuning in. See ya.